the nature of work has changed.
It's the Uber effect, right? Like everything's been Uberified. It's the gig economy coming for the white collar workers. We know that. It's happening. It's already happening.
When I talk to people who are in their late 40s, 50s, whatever, they're going, well, I just want a job. And they want it to look like it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I go, no.
The market is softened. The demand is different.
You're going to be a contractor. You're going to be doing a variety of side hustles and gigs. Forget having a job. You need to think about what are your sources and streams of income and revenue.
Oh yeah, just have a side hustle or be an entrepreneur. The fact is it's really, 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 really goddamn hard.
Chances are it's not going to be one. It's going to be multiple streams, and it's going to look very hodgepodge and patchwork. And that's the way it is now.
Perfect. Okay, looks like we're working.
Okay,
we're working.
so
We're cooking with gas here. Cooking
All
with
right.
gas.
All right,
We're
so-
on. We're live.
yeah,
It's
let me-
happening. Welcome to It Gets Late Early. Today, I am joined by Bradley Richardson, who is the host of Advanced Adulting, which just really shines a light on all the realities behind the scenes, the stuff that really doesn't get talked about much about being an adult, which sometimes is not so savory, right? It's sometimes a little bit rough, but he calls it out. He brings guests on who share their perspectives, and he's just a solid dude. So I'm really happy you're here.
Thank you. Wow. Being a solid dude, that's the best compliment there. We can skip the rest. I mean, look, I try to. I mean, I don't always get it right, but I think that's part of life is just trying to figure it out along the way, isn't it?
It sure is, but I think you're killing it, and I love what you're doing with your show. I think you're having the conversations that really, really matter, that we all need to hear and be a part of, and it's going to help us all feel a little bit less alone. And hey, that's worth a lot these days.
Well, I think that's part of it, and that's why I started this, especially, for anybody watching this or social media. Man, there's, and again, I tend to curse. So sorry, earmuffs on this, okay? There are so many bullshit artists out there now on social media and so much perfection, so much, curated narcissism out there that the idea of just keeping it real. Because, and again, we both spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. When you have to take a course on how to be authentic, there might be a problem. And it's when I started Advanced Adulting, it's kind of my own chronicle, my own life, of, hey, there's no roadmap, guidebook, course for this. We're just trying to figure out stuff that affects us all, regardless of where you live, your background, how much money you make, your education, your race, and a lot of kinds. We all are going to experience a lot of these things, these equalizers. And that's what Advanced Adulting is about. So now this is an interesting episode here because in a rare move, Maureen and I are recording this at the same time for both of our audiences. So if you are new to Advanced Adulting, if you know what we're about, we're going to have a great conversation with Maureen, but she's also talking to me for your audience as well. What I thought was so interesting, and when we first got to know each other and talk, is it's an interesting idea of this meeting of the minds, because there's so many different topics that we cover as we're in the same lane, but kind of bookends. As the older Xer, as the older millennial coming into this stage of life, and and also our backgrounds with recruiting, HR, business, life in general. And so we thought it would be interesting, Rhett, to talk about all these things, kind of the taboo subjects, with no filter, with no bullshit, no facade of these things, instead of just going, ageism is bad, and you're right. No, it's like, no, here's the real deal. And that's really what this conversation is going to be about. So it's going to be a little looser than probably some of my folks are used to, although we keep it pretty loose anyway. But that's the deal. So,
yeah, I'm stoked to get real with you. I think it's what people need to hear. It's how people are going to feel less alone, and we're not gonna gatekeep. We're not gonna hold anything back, and we'll say the quiet part out loud for you. So especially for those who don't feel like they can, right? So we'll be the voice for them.
Well, I love how you put that, though. I mean, one of the biggest things I think is important is, when in my experience, when you get people behind closed doors, you go out and, you're at the cookout or you go have a drink with them or whatever, and the wall comes down a little bit, you find out we have so much more in common. And it's that idea of being connected, being seen, being heard, yet everybody, again, it's not right. It just is. Everybody wants to kiss the ring. Everybody has to say the right thing, look the right way on LinkedIn or on social, or I can't.
That's real. And,
That,
and there's
that,
a real good reason for it too. I mean, the people who step outside of that box often get penalized. That's the reality. And I mean, you've lived the corporate life too. I mean, I've been hired specifically for my experience to come into organizations because I know what I'm doing. And they're like, "Oh, we need you to help us shape this and blah blah blah." And when I come in and I'm like, "Ooh, like we should probably go in this direction," and they're like, "Hey, get out of here!" And you're suddenly not invited to meetings. So it's like so much groupthink. It's dangerous even to share your expertise, which is kind of like what you're hired for, which is so bizarre. It's like
well, it's your
ironic.
expertise, but it's
Mhm.
also, I mean, look, one of the great things in society, is, hey, be yourself. We
Oh, yeah,
celebrate
right.
you. Well, don't do that. Be
Right,
yourself, but
right.
not
Just
that
not
much.
that much, not
Yeah,
that
you
way.
need to dial that
Mhm.
back. You're a little much. You're a little
So
extra.
true. So true.
And
It's not safe for everybody, you know? It really isn't.
no. And one of my favorite quotes is, again, I guess it's a very typical, the middle-aged man type of thing to quote Bukowski, but it's the idea of, who were you before the world put labels upon you? I'm paraphrasing, but that's really it. And so much of us, once you hit midlife, and, I understand the whole grumpy old man concept now of like, I really don't give a shit what anybody else thinks
No fucks
because
40s, no fucks 50s. Mhm.
no, because well, come on, we've subscribed and adhered to and played the game of what everybody has wanted us to be for so long in every
Exactly.
aspect, professionally, personally, the whole
So
deal.
true. And where
Yeah,
does it leave us so often? Very, very unsatisfied and disappointed. It's something that I realize now. I wish I'd known a lot earlier in my life because it's like I was following this rule book, trying to climb the corporate ladder in a certain way in order to get to a certain life. And it just wasn't happening the way it was supposed to. And I think that's something that can be pretty resonant for a lot of people of all ages, but like particularly I think those who are of the younger generations now, where the life that like my parents created is not really all that feasible for people who are younger now due to a variety of different things and just the way the world's unfolding. And so it's like there's a different relationship emerging with work that is not wrong and it gets dumped on a lot by people. There's this intergenerational warfare that I find like deeply unfair and it goes both ways, right? But at the end of the day, we're all just trying to do our best and have the best lives we can. And when you see that the contract is broken between employer and employee, in especially younger generations where you're not going to have the same earning potential, you're not going to have the same ability to buy a house, for example, to have that financial security, it's like, well, no wonder they're like, dude, I'm not just going to slave away for the man all day, right? Like that's not what's going to work for them because they know it's not going to pay off, right? So
100%. It's funny because, let's talk extra millennial stuff here, okay? Because we both bought into the bullshit and came of age professionally, and for those of you, whether you follow me or her or whatever, my background is I wrote the very first business book for Gen X way back in the 90s. I wrote Job Smarts for 20
so
somethings.
cool.
So it was this idea of when I'm 27 years old, and yes, pre-internet, thank you. But
Love it.
it was this idea of, okay, there was no roadmap for how we came of age professionally, because we were slackers, right? And it's this idea that, I think we were the last generation to really buy into that. You're going to go get a degree and you're going to get a job and you're going to work hard and you're going to play the game. You're going to kiss ass. You're going to perform. You're going to get and go up, and the company will take care of you. And very quickly, we realized that that's a load of crap. And then, especially now, I'm in my 50s. As you raise kids, you do this. You go all through this stuff, and you realize, wait a minute here. There's no retirement. We're gonna be working forever. We're family.
If we
Bullshit.
can work. Yeah.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because
If we can get a job, that's a thing,
yeah, and so we did that, and it was not as we were told. I'm
right?
not crying about that. It's just facts.
Mhm.
And millennials, the same deal. It's
100%.
hey, you're not family. They can let you go anytime.
Mm-mm.
You're,
Mm-mm.
you
We're learning the
work.
hard way.
You learn the hard.
Learn the hard way. There's no such thing as loyalty. I mean, there really isn't. And companies want to expect it of their employees and then don't show the same in return. And people are like, the jig is up. We see what's happening here. And we're no longer going to proactively participate in it. We're going to do what's right for number one. So, my perspective has shifted so much when I think about the way I would approach a job search and what I would stand for and what I wouldn't. And I just now I see the red flags a mile away. And I'm like, no. And granted, at some points you have a financial reality where you just have to take a job to pay your bills. So absolutely understand that people sometimes aren't in a position of privilege enough to make those decisions besides taking it, right? But like ultimately I think that people are waking up to this and they recognize, hey, if my company is saying that I can work remotely forever and I move across the country to be near an aging parent or whatever the case might be, to a better school district that has a lower cost of living or whatever. And then they pull it back and say, hey, actually, in 60 days, you need to be returning to office, 50 plus miles away from your home, and you want to uproot your life. No, like, you know that even if you do that, you don't have the protection that you're going to be there any longer. And I've heard instances of people who've done just that, who've been like, oh, they told me to RTO. So I hustled, I sold my house, I moved here, I did all the things, I made arrangements for my life. So that's possible. And they get there and they get laid off. And it's like, what the F? Like they didn't expect that you would actually do this. They didn't expect you to actually move. They wanted you to quit and they
Yep.
didn't want to pay out severance or unemployment. So they were like, this is a cost savings, it's better for the PR. Like all of that is so legit. And people notice it now. And I think they're waking up.
They
So
are waking up, and what's so funny is, a lot of us and a lot of Xers, a lot of people in general, okay? It's across the board. You wanna have trust, you wanna have faith, and I'm not trying to be cynical here, but, again, background, I was a headhunter. I was partner in one of the big search firms for a long time. I was in the search business placing CFOs for over 15 years. I've been in the rooms. The
the rooms where it
crap
happened,
the
right?
crap
Yeah.
that goes down after, that, "Oh, well, it should be this way." Yeah, it should be a lot of ways. You should eat your vegetables, you should not spit, but shit goes down. And what's funny is the duplicity of companies, and I can't tell you a couple of things. I can't tell you how many, people, when they're the employer, when they're making those hiring decisions, they're thinking one way, and it's this, and then once it happens to them, they call me. It's a totally different deal, and I think that is the idea of the way things should work when you're in the driver's seat, and the loyalty is a great example of that. And the deal is, people know it. They just don't like to be called out on this. Okay, okay. I'm not politically correct either. Shocker, but there's a great Dr. Phil quote or meme out there, and it was like, "You're not big boned, you're fat. I'd sugarcoat it, but you probably eat that too." And
Oh,
I'm like,
woo!
and
Damn.
I love that. Um, Sidebar, I got to work with Dr. Phil many, many years
Oh,
ago when
you
I
did?
yeah,
Oh
so,
my gosh, that must have been a trip.
yeah, he's the real deal.
Yeah.
But my whole point on that is employers, they don't like to be called out and told
Mm-mm.
told the truth on that,
No,
and,
they like to be in
you
the
know
driver's seat.
well, with the loyalty, and it's especially hiring older folks, right? "Well, they're not gonna stick around. We want someone who's gonna grow with the company." And my answer to this, it's an unpopular opinion, but here's the thing. I tell them, and I tell people who I've worked with to use the same thing. You know what? What are you thinking about? I mean, some marriages don't last 3 years, okay? And you're expecting me to build a company? No, that didn't work. And the other is, well, we want someone. What they don't say is we want someone younger. Well, hey, okay,
Sometimes
whether
they even do. It's
uh,
crazy.
well, yeah, but here's the deal. What no one says, look, and I have 3 kids all in their 20s. Thank God are good, kicking ass and all that. But you know what? Versus, if you're going to hire the young person because you think they're going to stick, the moment they get tired of your shit, the moment they decide, I'm going to go to Bali, become an influencer and sell tacos, the moment they decide that I'm getting married and I want to move around, halfway across the country, or my mom is sick and I have to be a caregiver,
Yeah, they're
they're
gone.
out of, they're out of
They're
there.
gone. They're
They're out of
gone.
there.
And the reality is people use those lines to exclude older workers all the time at these companies. But the fact is the data actually shows that older workers have higher and longer tenures than younger workers, which is wild. So that is a fallacy, the idea that so and so wouldn't be there for the long haul. And I know this happens all the time. I have friends who are out there searching for jobs and they get passed up at the last, after doing like 25 interviews through multiple months, being told that they're like the top or one of the top candidates, they lose out. And then literally they're told things like, oh, we wanted someone with a longer runway, or we wanted someone earlier in their career, which is basically like, that's all very age related, right? And it's infuriating because it's so hard to prove, right? It's so hard to prove ageism.
Oh God. Well, I think I'd shared with you the video I put up on YouTube. We've had, I think, maybe six, 700,000 people check it out, and it was about, I went on a rant once about what goes on
Once?
behind once a week, about it's kind of like, okay, let me just tell you the straight up what hidden ageism looks like from
Yep.
a recruiter's perspective. And that whole idea of, oh, we want a longer runway. And again, not everybody, some people are introverted, and I'm not saying be combative,
Right.
but it's the idea of what's wrong with calling that out.
Right.
You may not change their mind, but why be a sheep and just go along with it? And the
You can do
point,
it in a way that makes sense, right? And it's
yeah,
not so in your face and it'll work. Yeah, I agree.
no, but the point is for anyone who is experiencing that, and you get the overqualified or thing, or you might not
I
stick
hate
for a
that.
while. Wouldn't the example I use, you know, default to sports analogies. It it's the
When in
idea,
doubt,
well, I mean, come on, you're
sports.
you're a baseball girl.
Yeah, I sure
So
am.
it's the idea of a sports team, whether it is, baseball, football, whatever, they're gonna go out and they're gonna sign that free agent for a playoff run. And they're not building a team or a long career around that player. No, they're not. They're like, you're really good. You're at the end of your career, but you know what? You got a little bit of juice left in you, and we want that. So why don't you come on? If you're here for a season, for 2 years, awesome. That's an approach that I suggest a lot of
Yeah,
people take when they're experiencing ageism like
that
that.
totally makes sense to me, especially when you look at the current environment and how short-sighted a lot of these companies are. They're just looking for what's going to happen this next quarter, what's going to happen at the next earnings call. Like, how do we build for that? That is the reality of where we are today. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
take a page out of their book and use it to your advantage in that way. I love that. That's a great
Yeah,
call.
and
It's
it's
a
not being
solid call.
selfish. It's not being selfish either.
No. You
Yeah.
but you gotta look out for you. That's at the end of the day, I've realized that no one else is gonna do it for you, and I wish I'd learned that earlier. There was sort of this ethos of, like, if you just keep your head down and you do the good work, you'll be rewarded. That's absolutely not true. It's the people who actually are able to express what they've done, who will kinda, in some cases, obnoxiously sing their praises. They're the ones who get ahead, and you need to do it because literally no one, your boss, no one else is gonna do it if you don't.
Well, I think one of the biggest fallacies out there for a lot of people, I mean, and I think millennials, Gen Z, younger employees get this now, okay? And Xers are having a real hard time with this. Your qualifications don't matter, meaning best person doesn't get the job.
Yeah.
The best person does not get the job always
It's not how
at
it
all. There's
works.
so many other things.
There really are. There really
Yeah,
are, and some are in your control and some are not, but you have to just your job is to put yourself in the best light and the best foot forward possible. That's your job as a job applicant. You gotta do it.
absolutely.
You gotta know
Uh,
your strengths and lead with them and
yeah.
just and own it, right?
It's interesting with the whole employment ageism thing, and it's real. It's just a real
It's
deal.
real. And it
Yeah.
sucks for younger people too. I mean, ageism goes both ways, as we know. And like Gen Z is getting just pummeled. Like, gosh, Business Insider did a piece just the week before last that was the top story in BI. And it was all about how tech even has turned its back on Gen Z. And I was speaking, Amanda Hoover's the reporter who wrote it. And I said to her, like, yeah, typically tech is really super into the young people, but I think they love robots more. And like, if they can outsource your job to a different country for a lower cost or to AI for a lower cost, or even if they just think they can, you're toast. Like that's just how it goes. And so I think people are waking up to the reality that things are really tough for people of all ages. And we're in a really uncertain time where we don't really know where we're going. We know everybody has to use AI in every company, every job. That is what we do know. It doesn't matter how old you are. And you can look at that as like a death sentence if you want, or you can look at it as opportunity. It's kind of up to you. But we are in this moment where there's no handbook, like you said, even for advanced adulting, right? Like we don't get a guidebook on this thing, and we don't have one for the current day reality. We've got the genie of AI out of the bottle. We need to adapt to that evolving landscape. Like it's gonna keep on shifting, and we have to keep on showing we can keep up. That's where we are.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the another piece to that, AI is a huge piece, but I think the other thing, and that New York Times piece on the Gen X career meltdown
Oh
came out a few
God,
weeks ago.
yes,
Good
yes,
piece.
was yeah.
And I don't care if you're a creative or not. It applies to everybody.
I
But
agree.
the thing that I think is interesting is, and look, that's a whole other podcast rabbit
Yeah,
hole. But the nature of work has changed. The horse is out of the barn on this thing, And, when I talk to people who are in their late 40s, 50s, whatever, they go, well, I just want a job. And they want it to look like it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I go, no, you're going to be a contractor. You're going to be doing a variety of side hustles and gigs. It is not, and instead of looking at it, I think I was talking to maybe Adam Posner about this or someone else like that, but it was this idea of forget a job. Forget having a job. You need to think about what are your sources and streams of income and revenue. And chances are it's not going to be one. It's going to be multiple streams and it's going to look very hodgepodge and patchwork. And that's
Absolutely.
the way it is now.
It's the Uber effect, right? Like everything's been Uberified. It's the gig economy coming for the white collar workers. We know that it's happening. It's already happening. And I have people who reach out to me who are like, dude, I try to get a job today, the same job that I got 5 years ago. A, no one's calling me. And B, when I actually look at the range of pay for that same job, it's like 20 to 25% less than what I left it at in 2021. The market has softened. The demand is different. Corporate jobs are shifting, and this is the way it's going. And do I like it? No, I wish we could still go and work for one company that treated us well and give us a gold watch in 30 years, but that's not where we are. And we have to just embrace the reality of it. And by the way, like, I think there's a lot of glorification of the, oh, yeah, just have a side hustle or be an entrepreneur. The fact is, it's fucking hard. It's really, 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 really goddamn hard. And you're going to have to become a salesperson. That's another person I talked to recently was like, dude, it's not, I know how to do this work. Like, I'm super good at my area of expertise, but I don't know how to fucking sell myself. And that's what you are as a consultant in this gig economy. You have to routinely sell yourself over and over again. So we all have to shapeshift in ways that I don't think anyone necessarily saw coming this quickly, but we're there. And it's one of those, like, you got to kind of suck it up. And I don't like it any more than you, but that's where we are.
Well, and the hard, yes, 1,000% on that one. But the hard part, the part that I wrestle with, and a lot of people, I think personally wrestle with, but no one likes to admit. Let's go back to how we started this conversation off about the whole, bullshittery of social media. You know, I swear to God, if I hear the word personal brand one
Oh
more
my
time,
God.
okay,
Visionary thought leader,
oh, Jesus Christ,
self-proclaimed.
best-selling, number one author, top 1%,
Yep.
total. Well, I say sidebar, but that's what this is for. It's what this whole conversation was about. Is so we have lots of different, rabbit holes we're going to go down this weekend, and we'll talk about the guidebook for life in a minute. But this weekend, I got overwhelmed. Okay. And that sounds weak. I don't think I'm a weak individual at all. But, man, and you go back to Posner. I mean, he put up a post about this and he and I connected back and forth on something, but it was just this idea of there's so much information, so much marketing messages, so many things coming at you, so many how to best practices, optimize, maximize, all this. Look, am dealing with, you're right. Running a business, being an entrepreneur, there's so much shit you're dealing with swirling around. It's like making cotton candy. There's all this stuff
Crazy.
around. I just, I couldn't shut my brain off. Okay. And I deal with anxiety anyway. And
Me too.
so this was, I finally, and I told Shannon, I spent 2 days and I unfollowed, put on hold or muted 3,000 people.
Damn. That
Oh, I shit you not.
wow.
I went through and at first of it started with, anybody that was like scalable, maximize, any of those buzzwords. I shit you not.
10x ROI.
Well, no,
Yeah.
anything like that. Anybody that called themselves a queen, a boss babe, anything like that. Any
I'm gonna be
alpha,
sick.
any scale, any thought
No.
leader. But
Mm-mm.
going down, look at your description. And some of them, I just, are people that are big names, household names. I'm sorry, I got rid of Jay Shetty. Okay, I couldn't deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
But it was the idea of things that just didn't bring any positive energy. Okay, and not to get all woo here, but it really was. I thought, wait a minute here. I don't give two shits about this person in my life. We don't know. And some of these people I do know. Some of these household names, we are friends, but I'm just like, I can't take the whole constant comparison. You're less than, and I know some people, at least in my audience, I'll get flamed somehow of like, oh, that's just weak. You're not, dude, I know
I
some
don't
real,
think that's fair.
nah,
I think it's real,
it's
right?
real.
It's
Because
real.
because why are we sitting there thinking, oh my God, if I'm not making X, if I don't have a perfect ass, six
I'm a
pack abs,
loser.
yeah, if I'm not living in
Yeah.
Miami, dating a hot Colombian driving a Lambo, I suck.
I suck. And by
And
25, by the way, you have to have done all that by 25.
oh,
Or you're such a has-been, dude.
well, yeah, or on LinkedIn's the other one too. It is.
Mhm.
Sorry, I know we're going to be there, but it is the. You know who I get a crack out. I just crack up at is John Kraske. I
Oh,
love
yeah,
him.
I love his stuff. It's
It's just
hilarious.
kind of
He's
putting it up there,
very
like,
funny. Like, this is
and
ridiculous. Make sure everyone knows this is ridiculous.
it
It's
is,
amazing.
and I
Mhm.
think that's
We need
a
more of that energy.
we do, but I think my
Mhm.
point, and I know I'm not alone on this because there are some some people who I really respect who are big names who are just like, I'm done with the information overload. I'm done with this. I got to turn my brain off, and it's remarkable how you change your feed when you do that.
Yeah, that's actually a really strong idea. I should actually take some time and sit down and do some filtering. That's that's a good call. Probably lessens the extent of the anxiety in your nervous
Well,
system a lot. Like,
you
I
know,
don't need this. I don't
I
need this. Don't even like it.
no, I don't. I guess the way I'm
Yeah.
wired, and this, just you full disclosure, some of this just pissed me off. It was
Yeah.
just kind of like I'm hustling here, trying to do this or keep it real, whatever. And I don't. I have a lot of answers, just like you do, but I don't claim to have them all. I'm still trying to figure this
We're
out.
all trying to sort our way through this.
And when I see someone out there, and it's like, oh, this other, look at me in warrior one pose, and look at me at this meal that I've
God,
done, and all this. I'm just
seriously, you
like,
see that on your feed on LinkedIn?
oh, from grown ass men, from grown ass
Oh,
men. And I'm just like,
wowza.
really?
That is wild.
Look
That
at this
sounds
parking lot. High performers get
huh?
up early in the morning and look at this picture of this parking lot full of Ferrari. I shit you not,
Ice baths.
Ferrari
Ew.
and Porsche, and you need to be a high performer. I'm like,
You're like, "That's not what this is all
dude,
about.
your kid's
Get
probably
back to
selling.
me in a few years." Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That sounds like a cesspool of misery. I do not have a feed like that. I guess I'm fortunate to say but yeah, I am, like, morbidly curious, though. I kinda wanna go see that that's real. Like, wowza.
Well, okay. Let's go there.
I believe
Sorry.
you.
Well, okay. So I've had some conversations with mutual friends of ours, and it was just interesting how it manifests itself on LinkedIn, though. Okay, because I have a huge following on some of the other platforms. Okay, so that's for those of you that are Maureen's audience here. But on LinkedIn, it's the idea of, if I see another eight-figure guy telling me that the solution to midlife is paying 5 grand a week to go at Cabo and sit on a beach and meditate and hang out with the shaman and Gail King, or that
Oh
your
my.
your role model for being a midlife male is Beckham or someone like that. I go, okay,
That's cute.
it's
Mhm.
yeah, but
Yeah. I mean,
that's
Beckham.
the standard.
Come on,
Hey,
man.
look, Beckham and I have in common because we both wanted to marry Spice Girls. That's it.
And there which one was your favorite Spice Girl?
Well, I like
Were you
three.
a
I mean,
Oh, you like 3 of them. Okay.
I kind of
Posh,
well.
baby, sporty.
Oh no, no, no. I dug Scary
Oh,
and
scary,
the
yeah.
redhead and
Which one was
Posh.
she? Oh, Baby
Ginger, that's
Spice.
it. Ginger,
Baby
Ginger.
or Ginger Spice. God, I should know this. This was, like, my era. I mean, I
Oh
used
yeah.
to make up dances to Spice Girl songs back in the
Shannon and I
day.
give each other a hard time about this. She's like, "Look, I know that's your secret, old time crush on that,
Hall pass.
her, yeah, exactly. Hers, I swear to God, I never, I never want her to meet, like Brett Michaels. It'd be bad,
I don't know
you
who
know.
that is. Who's Bret Michaels?
Okay, if you got any extra people here,
You're like,
seriously,
"You can tell spot the millennial."
spot the millennial. Not just spot the
Let's
millennial.
play spot the millennial.
Poison, the lead singer for Poison.
Oh, Poison. Like that one, that song?
No, no,
Poison.
no, no, no.
Oh,
No,
see?
that's Belle Biv
Wow.
DeVoe.
Okay, wow,
Again.
you're schooling me on this music
Oh
trivia.
no, no, no. Every rose has a thorn.
Oh, every rose has okay, yeah, so I've heard that. Okay, Bret
There you
Michaels. Okay,
go. That
I'll look him up.
we can have a whole episode. See, okay, so this is a year and a half ago. We went to a concert. We went to see Def Leppard, Motley Crue, and Poison. Okay, all
Fun.
playing together in Dallas. And you look at the audience. Okay, and again, millennials are probably like, again, you went Belle Biv DeVoe, which I like too. But never trust a big butt and a smile. There you go.
Wait, is that a
Um,
lyric?
yeah, we speak in lyrics. Okay, any
Amazing.
Gen X are worth their salt will tell you they speak in 80s lyrics.
And movie
Uh,
quotes, right? I feel like that's a thing too. Yeah.
oh, completely. But
Mhm.
yeah, we went to see Motley Crue and Poison and Def Leppard. We look around, and I kid you not, I mean, everyone was 50 and up.
Mm.
It's
So you're
great.
like, "My peeps, I love it." Yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, that's great. When I go to my gym, they play, like, routinely just the solid jams that I heard during my college years. It's so much fun. It's like Ashanti, Ja Rule, like, all it's just so good. And I'm like, "Yes, I wanna go." It really helps. But, yeah, I'm like, "You guys are my people. I love this. I love this. It's a thing."
Very nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
It helps. It's inspiring. It's a push.
So I got a question for you. Let's change this up on one of our topics that we talked. We were talking earlier about guidebooks, rule books, and how
Mm.
there really are none
We should throw 'em out if you have
for
one.
especially for careers and jobs. But I think one of the tenets of advanced adulting is just that. Look, there's no rule book for this. I mean, look,
You do you,
when
man.
when you're 27, you don't sit there and think, I wonder what my second marriage is going to be like. It's going to be great. I wonder what it's going to be like to
It's
date in
gonna
your late
be
40s or
lit. Yeah,
50s.
yeah,
Oh, I'm going to
exactly.
tear it up after that. You know,
Yeah, but that's real, man. We should be telling our kids, "Hey, this might not be forever." So like,
oh man, as a parent, anybody that's a parent out there. So like again, my kids are, I got three of them in their 20s. One's married, fantastic. And the other two are in very, very committed relationships. And it's so funny because you want to just go, okay, let me tell you how this really goes. Okay. Let me,
let
you
me
know,
break it down for you.
let me break it down for you on what you probably need to consider here
Yeah.
on this. But you can't, you really
They
have to
won't
kind of let
listen.
them.
Yeah. Let them figure it out.
No, no.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I have this conversation with many people who are divorced. I mean, my mother and my sister, the week before I got married, they were like, "You sure you want to do this?" Because they'd seen, oh, you're the people that love you can tell. They're like, "Are you sure?" And you're like, "No, not."
Unless they just really want you booed up, like off the family payroll potentially.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I
Like,
mean,
go.
and I can't tell you how many people I've talked to. They're like, "Oh," or I knew. I just kind of felt
Mm.
obligated. I felt I had to
Yeah.
go
The
through this.
invitations went out
They
already,
went
that kind
out.
of
What are
thing.
people
Oh,
going to
incomplete.
say?
Yes, exact. What are people gonna say? That drives so much human behavior, and who cares what people say? Continue, sorry.
Well, no, well, and it's just funny. We talk about that relationships. Boy,
Mm.
we do go off on tangents, don't we?
We do. We're good
Um,
at this.
and I want
Stay
to go
with us,
back.
folks.
Well, I want to go back to the rule book for friendships in a
Yeah,
moment.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
but one of to this whole idea of what people think. My youngest lives in New York City now, and before he went to college, he uh, he was the most anxious of them all. And he was just concerned about what everybody thinks. And he goes, "Hey, I'm just really scared about making the right choice on college and the right choice on what I major in and all that." And I said, "I'm going to save you 30 years." Okay. And he goes, "What?" And I go, "We're going to die." He's like, "What?" I go, "I'm going to die. Your mom's going to die. Your grandparents. Okay. All of us in 30 years, we may be here. We may be here. We may not. Your brother and sister are living their own lives. And so the point is, when you're 45 years old, no one's going to give a shit. And so you do you. We want to protect you. We want to support you. We want to make sure you don't make any really bad choices. We'll save you from yourself. But, you know, you do you. And that's it. And I wish someone had told, me that. I know a lot of people, just go do
Me
your thing.
too. I think that's fantastic. And I wish that I'd heard that because I realize now that I did so many things to live up to the expectations of both my parents and society. And my parents were looking out for me. They wanted the best for me. They were thinking, take this path because this path is the quote right way. And they wanted to ensure that, I had a good life. So I understand the impulse for it. And I totally get that. But when when it doesn't feel right to you, I felt like I was wearing a mask a lot of the time, right? Like I was doing things, checking boxes, taking these steps, and then I'd get there and I'd be unhappy. And so I got really good at quitting. Like I'm an excellent quitter. When I don't like something, I am fucking out. And that really helped me learn resilience because every time I quit, I would have to figure out something else, right? And I'd go into these new arenas that I knew nothing about, and then I'd figure it out. So I started to gain self confidence. And my parents finally, at one point, they were like, we never really understand like the moves you make and why you're doing them, but they always really work out. So, like, good, sweetie. But let me tell you, when I was like, hey, I'm going to start a podcast, they were like, Come again? Like, what about this corporate world? Or what are you doing?" And I'm like, I gotta explain, like, things have changed. It's not the way it used to be, and, I can't have the career that you did, right? And it's a new world, but they eventually get there. I was fortunate enough to be featured in Forbes recently, and I sent it to my parents. They're like, "Oh, wow, okay, we get it." Like, like, but it took like, I'm like, "Just believe that this is gonna work," and even if this had crashed and burned, at least I would have known whether or not it could have been a thing, and I wouldn't have had to live with the regret of what might have been, because that was really what pushed me. At the end of the day, that was the number one fear that I had, and I knew I couldn't live with myself if I didn't go for it. And that is something that I think I would never have been able to do, like something so public, I guess I should say, back, in my 20s and 30s. I wasn't ready. I was still wearing that mask. I was still so worried about how I was perceived by others. And now, spotlight effect, I realize no one's friggin' thinking about me at all anyway. So do what you want. So I love that you gave your son that gift of that knowledge. That's so awesome. Like, bravo, good parenting. Not that
Thank
my
you.
parents weren't good. They were great. They just had a different worldview. Yeah.
Well, I look, I mean, for every one of those, I have 2 where I screw the pooch, so that's okay.
Everyone's
But
gonna need therapy no matter what we do with our children. So there you go.
exactly, and
Yeah.
that's what your first child's for, and
Oh boy. Oh boy.
sorry.
Yeah. Yep. It's a
Yeah, I
practice
hope my daughter
child.
doesn't see this one. Oh, but yeah, so let's talk friendships for a minute because
Yeah, let's go there.
before we went off on our other rabbit holes, we're talking about this idea of there is no roadmap or guidebook for a lot of things, relationships, career, life, anything, but it's um, friendships are an interesting one because I see people who you hit a certain this big pivot, oftentimes after a divorce, okay, or when that first giant milestone and you realize, especially for men, I think women do a much better job with developing friendships and maintaining those. Men, it's harder. But one thing that this loneliness epidemic for people in midlife is a real deal as well. And whether it's, you're too proud or brave to say anything. But one thing I think is interesting is this idea of, how friendships dissolve and they're not necessarily a screw you situation.
Mm-mm. More
They,
often
they
than
just
not, no.
they just die,
Hmm.
and I think that's an interesting thing. I want to talk about that for a second about
Absolutely.
the idea of loss of energy, ghosting, and friendships in general.
Yeah, we talk all the time about ghosting in the realm of employment, but not so much in the realm of friendship. And yeah, that's absolutely something that happens. It's not just dating, it's not just the workplace, it's friendships too. And whether that means you just kind of drift apart slowly, or whether someone just stops returning your text or something, it's a thing. And it's a loss, right? And I think it's something that I didn't anticipate. I think I grew up close knit community in terms of the high school I went to and whatnot. All these wonderful friends. Went to college, made incredible friendships there. Went to college across the country from where I live, and so that was great. And that it was opening my worldview to other things. I was getting new experiences and all that stuff. It was not so great in that the relationships that I made then were geographically, difficult, right? Because no one lived near one another. So, and it struck me as extremely hard to make real, lasting, legitimate, deep friendships as an adult, because of the fact you don't have those like casual run-ins with people. You don't have that same environment. You have a busy, full plate, and it's hard to prioritize that friendship. And it takes so many hours to really get to know someone. And what I realized is I think just like dating, I think people like really fast forward on that. Like they speed through it. They're trying to like be vulnerable and be insightful and like get together and share so much. And I think it's weird because I think it creates this faux sense of connection that maybe doesn't even necessarily really exist, right? It's like you're both trying so hard to fast track the friendship so that you have something. So that's something I've witnessed like over and over again in my adult life. And I don't know how to navigate that because I mean, I don't even have time for the people I love the most right now. And that's kind of a jarring thing to come and really sit with. And it, I think, lends itself to these deep, awful feelings of loneliness. Even if you're surrounded by people, there is just a gap and an emptiness that I think a lot of us do feel as busy adults trying to hack it, whether we're hacking it in corporate, whether we're doing that and a side job, whether we're doing something like what you and I are doing that's more entrepreneurial. It's just it's just so hard to juggle it all. It really, really is.
I think what's interesting, couple, and this is an interesting perspective. It's one reason we're having this conversation from different, different viewpoints.
Yeah.
As someone who's in that older Gen X area, I don't, yeah, I don't know whether it's personal. I don't know whether it's a personal perspective. I don't know whether it's age, being a man. I don't know, but I don't see as much of the fast tracking of friendship as I do just a reluctance, just a it's okay. I'm good, but I'm still lonely. I'm okay. This incredible judginess of things. Yet the challenge is everybody wants to be asked to the dance, and I think that is the big challenge I see, and is people want good friendships, they want the deep relationships, they want something beyond surface level, but I don't want to have to work for it. And what I mean is, we came up, and maybe it's a generational thing because it's this idea of so many of us, or in my peer group, look, where do you go to play? Hey, we're running the neighborhood. You're out all night. You're going down playing by the creek. You want to find out what's up? Hey, I'm going to go. There are all the bikes. There's, can Brian come out to play?
My
And
gosh.
people
It's
knocked on their door.
yesteryear. Yeah, it's
No,
so
it
different than
is.
today. It's like helicopter parenting. Yeah.
My God. But the thing is, we still hang on to that idea of, God, I don't want to have to be the one doing all the work. Why am I the
Mhm.
one having to do that? I wish that, and
Yeah.
I've talked to people I've worked with about this. It's this idea of you just want someone to send a text. You just want someone to make the call. You want someone. You're not looking for your lifelong BFF. But hey, you know what? Hey, you want to go dinner? You want to go drink? Whatever it is. And yet we won't take the thing. I think the greatest cure to loneliness for people in midlife is actually getting out of your comfort zone, as uncomfortable as it is, and making that first move. And fully realizing that a third of the people are going to say no. A third
Let
of the
them.
people, third of the
But
people are just going to be whack jobs. And you're like, oh my God, it's a one and done.
whoops. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lose my number. Yeah.
And a third are going to be like, there's my people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's,
I
that's
think
a
that's
hard
fair.
thing to think of.
It is, and I think, you were asking yourself the question of, is this because I'm a Gen Xer? Is this because I'm a dude? Like, what is this? And I had a guest on my show named Max Dickens. He's an author, and he wrote a book called Billy No Mates, which was about how he realized he had no friends as an adult. And he's like, what the hell? I'm like the banter guy. I'm like the go to the bar, hang out with, buy a round of drinks. Like, I'm a comedian, for fuck's sake. Like, where are my friends? And he realized this when he was getting married to the love of his life. And he was like, oh my God, I don't have anyone. It was like, I don't have anyone to stand up next to me. And it's like the book version of I Love You Man, the Paul Rudd movie, right? So, and he was great. He's a hilarious British guy. But he was talking about this issue and how persistent it is. He did a deep dive on it and how it impacts a lot of men. And it also worsens in midlife, by the way. And, obviously is a contributor to the epidemic of loneliness that we were discussing. But he had the same point of view as you in the sense that he's like, he called it the Sherpa. He's like, be the Sherpa, be the one who sends the text, be the one who tries to get people out there getting together. And I read that book and I like not so subtly like threw it over to my husband. I was like, hey, you might like this one. And now I'm seeing him take the steps from the book because I'm like, Dave, you don't see all your friends ever. Like you don't ever reach out to them, whatever. And he's like, you're right, I really don't. So now he's actually taking it upon himself to be the person who's initiating stuff. And lo and behold, like they come out of the woodworks and they hang out and like they have a great time. And I'm like, look, because up until then I'd been like, can I arrange a play date for you? Because he just
Oh
would like
God.
not do it. And I'm like, I
Oh,
can't take
men
on
love
this
that.
role. Right. I was like, oh my gosh. But I'm like, see, aren't you happier when you actually go? I'm like, please go. I got the kids, go.
Yep.
And every time he does, he's so much happier. So, yeah, is it a little uncomfortable? Yeah, do you wish someone asked you to the dance for sure? But like taking that step, being the Sherpa, I think
Yep.
is a surefire way to make your life just more meaningful.
Well, I agree with you. And I think the other interesting thing about this is, you know, so many of us believe that history means connection, longevity means connection, and it does not. And I see this in work friends. Okay. Oh, we're so tight. We're a family. We're so tight. They're my best friend. Well, great. Well, what happens when one of you leaves, one of you gets shit canned, then that you disperse and your work bestie, your work wife, your work husband, whatever, what do you have in common anymore? Nothing outside of that company. Very, very. Sometimes they stay, but
But you
those
never
fade.
quite know. You never quite know until you go. whether it's got staying power or not. And I've
Absolutely.
had people that I thought would be ride or dies that would stay with me. And once the work connection was gone, it just fell apart. And then I've had people like I was part of a layoff once, and I had people who I thought I was really close to who literally didn't even reach out to me after I was gone. And I was like, that's bullshit. Like, just be like, how are you doing? I'm sorry that happened. Like, it's not hard.
No.
It's not hard.
Well,
So not a real friend, right? You
absolutely. And
learn.
the same goes for, I say that history doesn't make a connection. And you and I've talked about this offline. I'll share it. I mean, look, there over the past couple of years, there have been two, I won't say lifelong friends, but 25 plus year friends that those friendships are no more. I think you asked, so did they pass away? No, they didn't pass away. The friendships died. They didn't. But it wasn't a, well, F that guy. It was just a matter of they lost energy. Our lives changed dramatically. And then also for me, with one of them in particular, it was just, wait a minute here. They're not a bad guy at all, but they're definitely not supporting me. And by that, I don't mean being my cheerleader, but it's just kind of like there's always that nagging, really? What are you doing? What's that about? You're like, dude, I don't expect you to, blow smoke up my ass, but be in my corner or not. Okay.
Right. It's
And because
simple.
I get, life's hard enough. I don't need the digs from my favorite
My
people here.
God. Yes, I so agree with you.
Yeah.
And they do come from your favorite people often. It's wild, starting something from scratch and doing so publicly is a really vulnerable thing to do. It's very, very frightening. I mean, to the extent that like I almost didn't do it. And then I was like, okay, I can't have that regret at the end of the day of not giving it a shot. And plus I failed before, quit things before, and it worked out. So I'm just going to go ahead and believe in myself here. But the people who you would expect would be not necessarily, like you said, your cheerleaders, but would like be there and be like clapping for you to keep going are the ones who will kind of ghost you. They'll like not be present. They won't even ask you about it. They'll be uncomfortable. Like, and I at least, I'm grateful that I have lived long enough and had enough experience in my own world to know that it is truly not about me. It is 100% about them being uncomfortable with taking a risk and it not being the sort of path that they would go on themselves. And so their concern, their lack of support, their lack of enthusiasm, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. So what has been a beautiful sort of silver lining of that is, obviously, first of all, I understand the meaning behind their lack of support and I don't take it personally. It is disappointing, but I don't take it personally. But I've also found these wonderful friendships that have come literally from meeting people online, like not kidding, with other people similarly situated, doing things like this, who understand my new world and are there to help usher me through or build it together. And that's been really beautiful. And those, I think, hopefully they aren't like the work friendships we just discussed. It's just like fade away if we move on. But like those have been really surprising to me and really have buffeted me as I've gone through this because it's been really, really hard to build this. It's been extremely difficult and I emotionally, right? Like to go through it at day in, day out. And especially when the rest of your world doesn't really understand what you're doing because it's so different from what they do. That friendship that has come and emerged from that has been really, really, I'm grateful for it. I have a lot of gratitude for it.
Good. Well, I mean, nothing scares the people close to you than you growing.
Exactly.
I mean, you growing is going to piss a lot of people off because, and that's just it. And
I know you this way. What are you doing? Who
well,
are you?
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's really it. You hit it on the head because it's like, oh well, you don't do that. You don't like that. You've never
No.
said anything. That's
Mm-mm.
not you. Well, okay, but
Right.
I'm trying to be better here,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the hard part is when you leave a lot of people behind, and that doesn't make you selfish. It doesn't make them bad. It's
Mm-mm.
just kind
Nope.
of
It
okay.
just is. It
Yeah.
just is. And, I think we often quote the concept of you're the average of the five people you hang out with most, right? And over the course of time, it's like, are you with the people who are helping you move forward in the direction you want to go or not? And you have to kind of take stock of that. And so I haven't had any, like, in this regard, like any sort of friendship breakup per se, but I have had like this sort of just gradual shifting where it's like, okay, well, we'll maybe see each other occasionally, but it's not the same. It's not the same sort of typical cadence of hangouts, right? And like both, I think both people kind of know it's happening, and so it can be a little awkward sometimes because it's like, oh, I used to hang out with you all the time, and now I just like don't. But I know what's happening and I'm cool with it. Like, this is a choice, right? Like, this distancing is a choice on both sides, and it's not personal. It's just a thing. So, I I feel like that's something that if it had happened to me and or when it did happen to me in my 20s, it would be like code red. This is awful. Oh my gosh, my life's over. Like I gave so much to this friendship and now it's kind of losing steam. And now I'm like, bye. It's okay. Like, love you. Like,
Didn't
you
you
know?
didn't you say that you're gonna go back to is it your 20th college reunion, you said?
Yes, yes, that's next month. Or this month. Oh my gosh, it's
Let's
this
do a
month.
postmortem on that. That's gonna be an
Yes.
interesting one
Oh,
right there when you're like,
that's a
"Oh,
good idea.
yeah."
Yeah, I have a lot of different feelings about going back, but most of them are happy. Most of them are excited feelings. But yeah, it's definitely kind of it throws you for a loop, right? Like, wow, 20 years have passed. It feels like yesterday. It's so weird.
So let me tell you as the big brotherly advice on this one.
Thank you. I need it.
What's gonna be weird, okay, and anybody watching this, you're gonna go, "Oh, yeah, maybe it is you. I hope it's not you." But when you see the people that you went to high school or college with and you look from across the room, you're like, "Whose Nana's that? Who's who's that?"
Who's Nana?
Oh,
Oh
yeah, when
wow,
you're like, "Oh my."
seriously
Oh, and I go, "Oh my god, I went to high
fascinating.
school with that person."
Like,
And
oh
you're
my
like, "Oh
gosh,
my god."
we're the same age. Yeah,
You're the same age and you're like,
people age
"Oh,
differently.
wow." People age differently. People, you're going to talk about one thing and you're like, "Oh my God, you have like 5 grandkids already." Or it's interesting. I mean, you start to see this divergent path in people's lives and there's no right or wrong. It just is. But that's an interesting, that is an interesting observation that'll make you think when you experience that personally for the first time.
Yeah, I'm kind of wow. I will definitely give you a postmortem on that. Yeah, it's gonna be
And anybody watching this, chime in. Tell me. Tell me
yeah,
what you
yeah.
think
Like,
about
what's
that.
good? Have you guys been through a college reunion? How did it go? High school
Oh, yeah.
reunion? Let's.
So, I think
Yeah,
I
I'm
had
curious what
my
people think.
I didn't get to go, but I
Mm.
think this past year was my 40th high school reunion, I
Oh
think.
wow,
Is that right?
what a trip!
Yeah, the
What
big
a
trip. Yeah,
trip.
definitely.
It's
Um,
all so crazy. I can't
it
even believe it.
it goes
Can't even
fast.
believe it.
Hey, it gets
But
late
yeah,
early.
it gets late
Um,
early. Thank you.
let's, one other thing I wanted to talk about, and we were talking about all these different topics, and again, is,
So many things.
this idea of I hear a lot of people say, "Well, that's not right." Everybody's on their self-righteous soapbox, right? Of, "Oh, well, Xers think this is right," or, "Gen Z thinks this is right." Look, it's fluid, it changes. You bet how you dress, all these different things. Everything is different as we matriculate life. But work is different. But I think there's some things that we've talked about that I believe are timeless. Yeah. And that stand the test of time. And I think that we experience it in I'm not talking about it can be professional, it can be personal, but I think communication is one of those things. You know, we have a Zoom call. Look, I mean, we have Zoom calls now, and people are in their PJs. People are in hoodies or whatever. And I saw a picture of my first job, and even the back cover of the Job Smarts book. I mean, I'm all Gordon Geckoed out in a tie, and the
That's awesome.
braces and all that.
Gordon geckoed out.
Oh yeah, I had hair too. It's great. But now, so those things have changed. But I think one of the things that I communication and professional communication never goes out of style, regardless of your medium. I mean, it may be this and two thumbs, it might be a Zoom. And you and I had talked. I mean, I last month there were 3 different people who had reached out to me in a professional setting about doing business together, and they led with, "Hey, bro." Okay. And I'm like, I'm a 58-year-old grown ass man. Okay. I will, we can get there fast, but I mean, to lead with that, or
It's
sup.
just oof, oof. Yeah.
And
You can be too casual. You can.
you
Too
can be too
familiar.
casual.
Too familiar, too casual. Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
thing. That's a thing.
And I think that's the thing is, look, you can wear, again, this is more for the LinkedIn folks out there or whatever, but you talk about what to wear on a job interview or what to wear to work or what to wear to an event. And like, okay, Shannon's she's out of town right now and a business conference. And she's like, "I think I'm going to be too overdressed. I think I'm going to be overdressed on this." And it was interesting. But, the dress thing is fluid, but it goes back to, I don't think how you communicate can ever go out of style, regardless if you're 21 or 51. You know, good communication plays every which way.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, a lot of that isn't common sense. And a lot of people do not know they shouldn't lead with, hey, bro, sup. Like, that's just not. if you're looking to do something together professionally, that's just not how I would make it happen. But it's, I think it's sad in some regards because we do have these different norms of communication and they're not necessarily right or wrong. They're different, modalities that we use, maybe different mechanisms. Like we might have a Slack kind of thing. Like maybe we want to communicate on Slack and another person is a big email person versus another person who loves the phone, right? But we don't have these ability, or we do have the ability. We don't often these days, okay, let me back up and say that differently. These days, it is less often that we have the opportunity to sit side by side with people who have been there, done that in the professional space, right? Who could show you the ropes on how to show up professionally. And it's certainly not being taught in college, right? So, a lot of people will throw insults at Gen Z as a collective whole, like as though they're all the same, of course, which is funny, and say that they don't know how to be professional. It's like, well, how did we learn how to be professional? We were taught by our peers in the office. And now there's a lot of remote work. There's a lot of hybrid work. Like we just don't have that sort of built in, almost accidental mentorship. And so that one really irks me because it's like you can't blame people who weren't given the same opportunity to not have the same skills that we have, right? And some of it, again, I would say, like the sup bro, it's probably going to fall under like the common sense bucket for me. But like other stuff, not so much. And I just think like we've lost, like you said, everybody's so self righteous. Everyone wants to point fingers at someone else. And it's like, can you just be nice to other people who happen to be different from you in one way or another? It's just, I don't know. It's rough. But I do believe like there is a certain way you can show up and it's timeless. And it's just like, it really comes down to respect. Like, sup, bro? Like, come
Yeah,
on, man.
I harped on that because that was just so extreme,
It is so
you know?
extreme. There are
Um,
lesser variations of that for sure.
but I also think it extends to, um, follow
Mhm.
through,
Yep.
things of that nature. I mean, it's simply confirmation, and maybe I am playing the old man card. I don't know. Get off my yard. But it is. I mean, it's the things of I see it fairly often in terms of look when someone wants something. I mean, give them as much information as they need. You know,
Right. Like,
that
yeah, exactly. Put yourself in the other person's shoes is what I have to say about that. Like, people don't really seem to do that often, and you would think that they would know, and I'm talking about people of all ages doing that too. I mean, here's a great little story for you. I recently had someone reach out multiple times, is commenting on my posts, DMing me, "Hey, we should get together. I think I should be on your podcast. I want to be a guest, blah, blah, blah." Uh, I finally am like, okay, I'm going to meet with this person. This person doesn't show up to the first meeting, which was rough because I had set time aside. Apologized profusely. Hey, it happens. I am ADHD. I lose stuff. I mess things up. Things fall off my calendar. That's fine. So you get another shot. Next time we meet up, late again, and then I'm told, hey, so in your intros in your podcast, do you do X, Y, Z? And I was like, so you've been begging me to come on my show, but you haven't even watched it? Are you kidding me? Like, why am I here? This is so like disrespectful of my time. And that to me is just a very clear, obvious lack of professionalism and common sense. It's like, don't hunt me down to participate on something of mine if you literally don't even know it. Like, no, that's unacceptable. So it's disrespectful to me, in my view. So I was like, oh, click.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so funny. I mean, there's so many there's a master class on this again, and another big social media word, right? Let's take your
Oh
master
God,
class.
everywhere.
How's my new elite mastermind?
Oh yeah, mastermind for
Uh,
$8 billion.
and anybody that's watching this, think, God, you're kind of a jackass on this. No, I've been that jackass. I've been the guy doing this, so I can talk shit on it because I know exactly what goes in on that.
Oh my gosh, that's
Um,
amazing.
But yeah, I think it's just we take the path of least resistance so often now, and this is why, okay? Because no one either has the conversation or thinks it through. It's just two thumbs in 10 seconds and boom, I'm off, and I think that causes a lot of
You're right.
problems,
We run
and
too fast.
we do. But the other thing, and this is for anybody, and this is so funny for I believe this to be true for you know, professionalism, for relationships, for anything. The bar has been lowered so dramatically. That's a whole other thing about midlife dating and relationships.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
the
Only
bar is
imagine.
so low right now that sad to say, if you do the bare minimum, these things that are so common sense to some people, you fill in those gaps and go just a little bit extra or do this. It's sad. Customer service is a great example. When you do those things that used to be such commonplace, you're like, wow, look at them. They're amazing. No, they're just doing
Oh my
what you
god.
ought to do.
Well, and you teach people how they can treat you, right? Like I have friends who are on the dating scene, and I remember one time one of them, a dude called her and left a voicemail, and the whole friend group was like, "Oh my god, what a winner! Hold on to him." And I was like, "Wait, that's not normal. Like you guys don't expect no, I get a text back or whatever." I'm like, okay, I feel like we've maybe
Make a
lowered our
plan, confirm, show up on time,
standards
hold the
a little,
door.
right? I'm
Yeah,
like, wait, why are we like saluting this dude for sending, like leaving a voicemail, like calling you? It's just crazy. But yeah, we accept this standard and it perpetuates, right? So it's like it's a race to nowhere. This is rough.
that's a
But yeah,
race
you
to
have to,
mediocrity. Yeah.
right? Exactly. And it's like we got to show people what we expect and we got to, hold them to higher standards and hold ourselves to higher standards too, right? Like it's just it's sad that we've gotten to this place where there's such a wow effect to receiving a voicemail. That's just insane to
Well,
me.
it's a voicemail, and I go back to customer service. Again,
Yeah.
saying this out loud, I really do, I start to empathize with my parents and grandparents because now I'm at that stage, I guess, where
Mhm.
it's like, "Oh, give me hard candy, you bet," and I'm ready
Yeah.
to sit there and talk about the good old days. But it's just, when someone actually I like Chick-fil-A, okay? I'm from the
It's
South, I like
it's
Chick-fil-A.
delicious.
It's delicious, isn't it? Who cares what you agree with whatever they do corporately, but they're pretty damn good. And their customer service is great. And we
It
joke
is.
about it now because you're like, oh, well, you're attentive, you get it right, you communicate, you're considerate, and yet you go somewhere else and you're like, oh my god, you just expect to be ignored or treated like crap or whatever.
That's a really great example because
Or do it
recently
yourself. Yeah,
but yeah, yeah. Recently, my family went to Chick-fil-A for the first time, and we're like, "Oh my gosh!" Like we couldn't believe the level of service. We're like, "This is unreal." Like, are we actually at a fast like you
my
said, the
pleasure.
bar's been yeah. They were like came and checked on us like 5 times. They're like, "Can we get you anything?" I was like, "Oh, what?" Like I've been to a fancy restaurant that didn't do that. Like it was just crazy. But yeah, I think the bar has just fallen. It has fallen so far, and our expectations are low, I
Well,
suppose.
it comes
Key
back.
to life, low
Look, I
expectations.
hope, I hope that the pendulum swings back the other
Me
way. And you
too.
you said this
Me
word
too.
earlier, and this is not generational. I think it's societal right
Mhm.
now. But the lack of respect is really it, and that's just it. Respect at your workplace, respect at the grocery store, respect online, respect anything, And I think it's become so easy to again take that path of least resistance to hide behind shit that we just don't think about. Oh wow, you know. You have, if you want to go another way, I'll light this up. uh, There's stuff that back in the I say back in the day. Good God, things that
How
I
to get
know.
younger people to tune out right
Well,
away.
here's the thing.
Back in the day.
There's an upcoming guest on my podcast is going to be is the author of a new book, and I'm going to mutilate the title, but it is please tell my kid what to do. Okay, and what it is she did research globally on how cultures raise children and how often in other cultures, not in America, when I grew up, look, if I was going to be a little shithead, and my mom didn't have to be around because I guarantee you someone else is going to call me out on it. Okay.
Oh
So
yeah, that doesn't really happen now.
that does not happen anymore. And so she's going to be a guest on the Advanced Consulting
That's
podcast. I'm very
awesome.
excited about that. We're going to talk about this, about how other cultures raise it and how we probably used to. But, we were, Shannon and I are out shopping this weekend and we're mauling these kids in front of us. I say kids are probably like maybe 17 or so. And just how they're talking to other people, whatever. And I said, excuse me, are you in line? Huh? And then I said, excuse me, because I didn't hear. I said, excuse me, are you in line? Yeah.
Oh,
And,
attitude.
granted, I'm also fifth generation Texan. So there is this idea of I do buy into the old school, how about a little bit of manners?
Yeah.
And it was just so funny because we look at each other and we're like, what the
Well,
hell
yeah.
is that?
Who do
Where
you
did that
think you
go
are?
wrong? You
Yeah.
know? And,
That's just weird.
and would my kids ever
Disrespectful.
do that? No.
No.
But
Well,
anyway,
I don't think they would, and I mean,
I know.
gosh, it's sad that we're at this point of incivility, and, there was something that came out recently, I forget which survey it was, but it was talking about how incivility in the workplace is on the rise, and how damaging that is to organizations where people are just doing these kinda, like, low-grade toxic workplace things, these just, like, casual affronts to others, and like, there's nothing to it, right? And so whether that's your boss throwing you under the bus or, someone giving you side eye during a meeting or making a cutting remark, like these things are on the rise and it's making us a lot less happy and a lot less
Sure.
productive.
Well,
And
and I go ahead.
makes sense. Oh no,
Yeah.
makes
I
sense.
I think one reason for that, okay, again, unpopular opinion. I know people will light me up on this one, but it's the idea of there are no consequences. There's
Mm,
zero consequences because, you know, people have become brazen with that. The keyboard
yeah,
warrior. Then I've responded to people online with this who just things that the vitriol, the things that
it's
people will say,
insane. Someone told me to
comment to me online. I go, I look, I
say it to my
guarantee you,
face.
if you came here and were standing 18 inches away from me and you say that, you would not
You'll be sorry.
your tune
Y-
would change
Yep, you
dramatically
got
and
the
you would
pit in the
never say
background.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah,
guarantee you.
people are
Um,
emboldened. It's
or
absolutely true.
or in a meeting, the
Yeah.
side eye, the whatever. You're like, you know, hey,
Hello.
sometimes you call your person out. Sometimes you do that
Yeah.
privately. But
Yep.
no
Yep. No,
consequences.
people are just out there. There is, I think, a lack of responsibility and accountability taken a lot of the times, right? And these things, they're like a cancer. They keep growing at the organization. They keep on poisoning other people, and you got to cut it out. Like I was part of an organization that had this horribly toxic, completely ineffective leader, and I'm not kidding. Literally 9 people in his organization, which wasn't that big, were like peace. By the time I found the right job that I wanted to get me out the door, when I gave my exit interview to and I told my HR person that I was leaving, she was like, "Hey, can you hold on like a couple more weeks because we're going to have some changes that I think you'll be really excited about." And I was like, "No, I'm gone. Like I'm gone. Like you had all the signs. Pay attention to the signs. Like you cannot keep toxic leaders. It'll push out all your high performers, people who have the choice to go elsewhere. It's common sense that ain't common, right? And it's very frustrating to see also all of this nonsense internally at a lot of these bigger tech companies that are happening right now, where it's like the performance ratings are all changing and they're getting polling workers at the lower part who are, I'm sure, probably like super high performing anyway. And what is created is this like dog eat dog, Lord of the Flies, like backstabbing culture at these organizations where you have a bunch of people who are in, CYA, cover your ass mode. I got to keep my job, right? So they're throwing people under the bus right and left. Like the people have reached out to me. They're like, dude, it is fucking awful to work in these environments right now. No one's safe. There's no one you can trust. And you better believe those people, they're not looking out for the company. They're not thinking about the customers. They're thinking about themselves and who could blame them. But it's created this just awful mess. And it's like, dude, why don't we just do better? Like we're humans. Can we please have a little progress here and have some civility and kindness and lead with respect? And when companies create these sorts of systems, it creates this environment, and it's awful.
Well, I think it's interesting, and again, I'll put the former headhunter hat back on. It's the idea of you're exactly right. I mean, toxic leadership, it trickles down, but that also goes from building a culture, goes to the people you let in. And I used to tell my clients, I go, you're a bouncer. Okay. You're a bouncer at a very exclusive club. And when you think about this, okay, so you've built this fantastic environment, this fantastic culture. You're a great team, all of this. And the moment you let somebody, you let somebody behind that velvet rope there who's just a troublemaker, piece of shit, whatever, they may be a high performer. They may bring in great revenues, but they are garbage. And they are going to completely just piss in the pool. And that's it. You're the bouncer. And we don't think about that because and look, I've experienced it firsthand. I mean, it's just, you know, everything's going great. Oh, but we got to grow because this guy will bring this huge book or this guy will do this. And okay, cool. But he also has a massive cocaine habit and he's been sued twice. Okay. But hey, he produces. He's great. And when that happens,
Oh,
you
man.
see they say that
Mm,
look,
brutal.
you may not like the answer, but it's the answer. But it's the that's when your people who built your culture, who built your company, who are those foundational pieces, that's when they say, "I'm
Oh,
out. I'm out."
100%. There are consequences to that. There
Absolutely.
really are. And there are
Absolutely.
actually financial consequences to that as well. I mean, think of all the turnover and all the different training costs to upskill, reskill, hire new people, all of that. There's a cost, people. Don't hire jerks. It's a cancer. It's just I don't but with a lot of leadership examples out there, what I will not go into all of them, jerks are kind of winning right now, it seems. So it's a sad, sad state of affairs, I would say.
Everything's cyclical. Everything
Mhm.
is
Yeah,
cyclical. Like I said,
out with the jerks.
I hope the pendulum swings back
And it
the
will,
other
and
way.
it will, and I hope that we get to a caring world. And, you know, something that you talk about a lot on your show, which I think is important and focusing on, and I hope that an increasing number of organizations will shed light on the reality of this, right, is caregiving and how much that takes in someone's life in energy, in planning, time, resources, everything. And how employers either are or aren't there to help people with that and recognize that that's a reality for so many people. We're getting older very quickly as a country. You know, the demographic change is upon us, as you know, our friend Bradley Sherman often talks about, right? This is real. And employers need to wake up to this, because if they don't, they're going to be in a world of pain. But maybe share with us a little bit more about your own caregiving experience in your journey as having to try to balance it all, right?
Well, and we talk about caregiving in the traditional sense of, hey, caring for an aging parent. I mean, that idea of, between your your demographic through mine are really that sandwich generation. And if you've heard that term, that's probably one of the more accurate ones out there. That is not a cool marketing term. That's not something, that sounds cool. That's a real deal, because we're feeling the squeeze, and younger millennials are, or older millennials are now, because here you are, many of them are having children. Okay. They're in your prime earning years, your prime career years, and yet you're faced with, how do I manage my own life at home, my own relationships, my own, whether you have kids or not, okay, my own relationships, my own desires, versus, and pit that against, I have an aging mom or dad. I have someone who I have to take care of, who's in decline. That is one of the unspoken truths that are out there. And that word that I love so much and believe in is equalizers. It doesn't matter your income, your background, your education. Many of us are going through this, and I think that the challenge here is, from a company perspective, is going to be, used to, you could silo your life and work, and it was two silos. It was personal and professional. And now they bleed over so much. The expectation is you're on Zoom, you're available, you have 247 access. I think Gen Z is crushing it and has the right idea with, hey, 5 o'clock, F you, I'm out, I'm done.
Uses, yeah,
Okay.
100%
So
agree.
yeah, I'm on vacation. It's me time. They're doing it right, actually. They're
Sure.
they're
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 teaching
way
us all.
their way of going about it, and their delivery and communicating it might not be so great, but they have the
Sometimes
right.
could use improvement, yeah.
Yeah, they could use a little communication tip, but they have the right idea. But for so many of us, man, that's the hard thing, because as an employer, hey, I want you to be present. I want you to be there. I want you to get your head in the game. I want you to be fully here right now. Okay. How can you do that when either you're figuring out, hey, mom fell, mom has dementia, I got to figure, I'm battling with my sister because we got to figure out if dad's in a home and how we're going to pay for that. These are real things. They're not the sexy go sit on a beach in Cabo. That's real shit. And that's a real deal right there. Meanwhile, am I ever going to be able to retire? I'm 50 something. I'm too old to hire, and I'm just dealing with this. Oh, by the way, I got kids who are going in college, and I'm having to, foot that nut right there
Mhm.
as an
It's
employer.
real.
Or look, I just had Tamsin Fidel on a week ago. We just recorded that, and he's talking
Yay.
about menopause. Okay,
Mhm.
and look, that's a real deal as well. Your own
Yeah.
physiological changes that are going
Mhm.
on that affect you, your body, your mindset, your mental health, all of this.
51% of the population, folks.
Absolutely.
51%. Yep.
Absolutely. And so I'm telling you, I mean, look, I'm not saying drop everything and devote tons of financial resources to it, but just be aware.
Yeah,
Just
exactly. Meet the
stop
moment.
stop down and go, "Hey, you good? You
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah.
You all right?" I mean, talk to me. Tell me what's up.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the thing, and it's again, I'm the king of mutilating quotes, but it's the Hemingway had a quote, and it was this idea of, look, at my darkest periods, I don't always tell me what to do. Tell me, or just be there for me. Just listen. Just acknowledge. And that's really what so many of us want. And I think that's probably the best leader that you could be. Is instead of, hey, did you get that on time? What's this out? What's this? It's just, hey, what's going on? You know? What's that shit? Oh my God. Good example, cheesy example. I'm also the king of cheesy examples. The new Suits reboot, the Suits LA.
I haven't seen it. How is
It,
it?
it's okay. It's
Solid?
like nobody's Harvey Specter, okay?
I mean,
I mean, it's a
that's
it's
tough to follow.
it's good, but there's a scene in it because we watched it, and one of the partners there, she's all type A, hard charging, and she goes up to one of her associates and was like, "No, you need to be." The girl had just hung up the phone, finding out that her pet passed away. Okay, whether it's a pet passing away, whether it is one of these other significant issues, people have lives. And this girl just rolled over her. Like, if you want your career, you need to have your ass at this dinner, blah, 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 blah. When really, all we want sometimes is, hey, I see you're off. What's up? You know? What's up?
Exactly. That goes so far in a manager. Oh my gosh, like I still remember it was after, I mean, we've been through a lot of unprecedented times in the recent last, let's say 5 years, right? Like you keep on thinking we've reached the bottom and then something sinks lower. But I remember after one such unprecedented time, I think it was the invasion of Ukraine and then Uvalde happened like in short succession. And I was like, we were just coming out of COVID. Like I was just getting my stride back. And my boss at the time, knowing that I'm an empath, knowing that I'm a human with children and all that. He reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, how you doing, Mo? Are you about to like run off into the forest, never come back?" And I was like, "Basically." But the fact that he reached out and didn't just like pretend that everything was normal meant so much to me. And he's the kind of leader I'd follow moving forward, right? It's just being human,
It's
right?
being a human. And again, another overused LinkedIn word in the HR world there. Okay. Be humans. Well, no
Yeah,
shit. Okay.
yeah,
Don't make it a mandate. Just be it.
yeah. Just be it.
And I think it's also, I hate the woo woo word, but giving space. What does that actually mean? That means allowing someone to be open without repercussions, you know, without the idea of, hey, you know what?
It's going in
I'm,
your
I'm,
file.
I'm coming apart here. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm coming unglued, you know, I'm just because I think at least for, I'd say for Gen X and especially, male Gen Xers, I'm good. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. I'm tough. I got it. You know? No, you're not. No, you're not, man. It's
Mm-mm.
okay. It's
No.
okay. You know?
But I do think sometimes it can be a very, very tough thing to do to be that open at work, right? I have a friend who's going through cancer and she's like, dude, not telling my boss about this. Like, like this
No.
is not going to help me keep my job. That's a
It doesn't
sad
mean open
reality
in
too.
vain. It
Right,
doesn't mean
right.
here's the thing. There's a difference between being open and oversharing. Okay. And just like on a date too. Okay. And there's a whole other rabbit hole we can go on train wrecks that have occurred there. But it's you know, eh, there's a difference between being open and just saying, hey, you know, I know I need to be here, but I have some stuff in my personal life right now, or some stuff I'm really dealing with. Don't want to share, but I need to be. Okay. And that takes some courage for an individual to say, but it takes even more courage for a boss or someone to go, I hear you. I see you. We're good. Okay. It's the hard part.
But if
That's
they only did that, the amount of loyalty and the amount of hard work that you would get from your employees would just like skyrocket. That's just the reality. When people treat you with that level of respect and kindness, you want to work harder for them. It is just how that goes. If you treat me dismissively, if you're rude, if make negative comments or whatever, I'm doing the bare minimum for you. That's all you're going to get. And by the way, I'm leaving
oh, you'll get
too.
me that time.
Right?
You
Like, yeah.
bet. I'll get that project done. I'll crush it.
Mhm.
But I'm remembering that.
Oh, yeah.
And the
Oh,
moment.
yeah.
yeah, it's again, if common sense were common, but no.
Mhm. It ain't. I really wish it were. Maybe next lifetime? I don't know. We'll see.
But I think that's the thing though, is yeah, and that's what look, that's an advanced adulting thing. That is also there's an advanced adulting thing, but I also think it's an ageism thing too. I had this conversation with Bradley Sherman on this, and it was and Carl Honore as well. It was this idea of again, people are going to crucify me on this one.
You've said that a lot this
I do
conversation.
because I know people's hot
You're
buttons.
like, "I
I
know
know
what's
people's hot
coming."
buttons. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll say what people are thinking, but you're not going to fix ageism. You're
Oh,
just
fuck
not.
no. There's
Okay.
no way.
Oh, well, we can. There's laws on that. Okay, cool.
Mm-mm. How are
But
they working out for you?
yeah, I
Mm.
speed as well. But
Mm.
it's there's certain things that you can say this is how it ought to be or the right thing, but you won't know until you experience it. And I believe growing older and everything surrounding ageism, whether it is raising children, whether it is the workplace, whether it's anything, you don't know until you can conceptually understand it. But you will not you process it until you are there. And how many times has our parents, oh, just you wait till you're my age, just you wait till you have kids. Oh, that's it. And I remember being that kid, again, I wrote the book on Gen X in my 20s, okay? I thought I had my shit figured out. And so and then you realize, oh, I didn't that's what they meant. I didn't expect that. You
You don't
know?
know until you're there. You don't
You
know
don't know
until
until
you've
you're
lived
there.
it, which is again why it's so important to have people who it really just are across all different group representations within your organization. Because if you don't know, you can't really spot it, right? Like if you haven't been there and in someone's shoes, you can't spot it. But I think one thing I'll say about the anti-ageism movement that I am heartened by, and the fact that ageism is coming up as a topic in even mainstream media and on the silver screen, is that younger people, I believe, are going to be aware of it at a much earlier stage of life in a way that is going to be impactful because ageism also gets younger people. And you have Gen Z facing a freaking disaster of a job market, a white collar recession, and they're seeing that their age is being used against them. So I think the fact that it's happening now at that level to that group means that we'll probably, hopefully, have a little bit more kindness and compassion towards other people who just so happen to have been born at a different time than we were, right?
Well,
Because we're all
again,
going through this thing together.
it is. It is the ultimate equalizer. Okay, because I will never know what it's like to be a woman. I will never know what it's like to be a black man. But you know what? Everybody knows what it's like to get
To get
older.
older,
You
exactly.
can be an
It's the
ally, an
one thing.
advocate, all of that, but
Right.
you will experience. I
Yep.
don't care who you are. You will experience getting older and those things.
Exactly.
And I agree with you. I think that what I again heartened by. I think that it's good for us to be aware. Well, look, when I entered the job market, there were two generations. So here, I mean, that's those are facts. Okay, you had Gen X and Boomers. That was it. Now we have five. Okay, and so to be aware that you know, you, again, the idea of diversity of thought is a good thing, is a great thing, and to be able to recognize and be open to, hey, maybe someone who's been there before, maybe they don't have to do it like them. Maybe it's not the way, but it is a way. I mean, it's
It's info, it's data, right?
look, we
Like
study history for a reason, yeah.
right. Or
And
some
I
of
think,
us do.
well, I think that's there's a benefit to that. And like I said, I don't want to sound like a total cynic when I say you're not going to fix it. I think you're
Mhm.
going to create awareness with it, but do I think that there's
Right.
always going to be there?
Oh,
Absolutely, because
absolutely.
you got the young buck that thinks they're badass, smarter, faster, can jump higher, and is just better. You're
Yep.
going to have that, and that's
He'll
okay.
learn. And
And
that's
that's
all
okay.
right. It's part of the system. It is how it is. And we can create awareness, we can create sort of mechanisms to not completely probably eradicate it, but at least navigate it. And that's just how it's going to go. So, I mean, I think there's a certain amount of hand wringing over it that's just at some point it just becomes unproductive and it's like okay so now what do we do, how do we move forward, and obviously awareness and education is good, but it's not going to solve it. I totally agree with you. It's just so embedded in our DNA. It just is.
Well, and it's so funny because I see a lot of people, a lot of my peers, and a lot of people on my platforms who will comment about this, and I think that's one of the things about for Gen Xers are experiencing. Is it wrong? Yes. Does it suck and hurt? Absolutely. but it's real. And your choices are to bemoan the fact, or, you're not going to change somebody's mind. You're just not. Okay. So what can you do? You can adapt. And one of my things, I saw an interview with, look, we're not always going to be, young, beautiful, wrinkle free and have hair. Okay. As evidenced, but it was an interview with Ethan Hawke. Okay. And he was talking about the moment he realized he was going to have to make some dramatic changes to his career. And it was this idea how he had been up for these, leading man roles. And he goes, they asked me to come in and read, but it wasn't for that. It was like,
Mm.
he goes, oh shit.
It's
I'm
happening.
now,
Yeah.
I'm now that old, the older man, and
It's late
I'm now the
early.
dad in the movie. I'm
Mhm.
now this.
The bit
And
part, the, like, not the
yeah.
main show. Yeah,
And
yeah,
he goes,
it's
I'm
real.
going to have to figure out how I want to adjust to this. I can sit there and try and, hang on to it, or I can evolve, you
Mhm.
know? And I thought that was really smart. And there's a clip out there of that he does just a phenomenal job of explaining it. But I think that extends to us in our personal lives, to us
Totally.
in our careers as leaders, as,
Yeah.
leaders in your family, leaders in
As
your,
visionary thought leaders.
oh, yes, as your visionary thought
Making
leader,
yeah,
you know,
exactly. I will
look,
say one hopeful element of what you just said, so the Ethan Hawke thing, I love that he's just, like, recognizing this is a thing and he needs to contend with it, and it's like, you might not like this reality, it's an inconvenient truth, but it's here. But I do think that there's also a shift to having more representation and more main characters who are older, and you see it over and over again in the movies that are happening. Some are even actually pointedly talking about ageism, like The Substance with Demi Moore, with the Last Showgirl with Pamela Anderson. Like, people are actually having this conversation, and these are not bit characters; they are the main character. So there's like this midlife main character thing that's happening, and that gives me a lot of hope because it's not like, oh, you're done. It's like, no, 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 you can still have, you can be the main storyline here. You're not some bit part. So I think there is a shift there, which I'm heartened by because then that could trickle down into society and maybe we won't be like whatever Karen because you're like middle age or whatever, right?
yeah. I think there's an old movie clip, and I think it's with Barbara Stanwyck. Okay, which I don't ever
I
expect
don't.
you. You know,
I'd like
you,
Barbara Streisand. I know.
yeah. Again, I'm complete. I like movies and entertainment, so I can pull all this stuff, but I don't expect you to know who she is for you.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Pew, pew.
but listen, it's an older movie and very powerful scene. Okay, because she's up there and she is making a case, and she's crying and demonstrably saying, you see age, you see me as an old woman, but I live, I feel, I have dreams, I have desires. It'll choke you up. But you think about that. Every single one of us, okay? It doesn't matter if you are 42, 52, 62. You still, that's the one thing no one told me about getting older, okay? Outside of the fact that my knees creak a lot, okay? I feel okay, I feel a certain age. I feel infinitely younger than
Right?
my age
Then we
indicates.
present. Yeah.
And I had a conversation with a friend of mine this morning, and he's, it's funny, the outside looking in, okay? Big time interior designer in Aspen. I mean, super, you look at his life and you go, this guy's living the life. And we're in similar age. And it was just interesting how we were talking about how you feel young. You feel, not even say young, you just feel like, hey, I have a lot of gas in the tank. And there's a lot I still want to do. But it's that awareness and that realization that, oh my God, the clock is ticking. And there is not, as we're approaching 60, that sounds old, yet there's so much to do. And you have this evaluation of what's next. Do I want to stay here? Do I want to just embrace this world that I've created, or do I want to move somewhere else? Do I want to go explore different things? Do I want to try new things? And I think that is so important. And again, I think everyone thinks that, and that's not to say that, hey, you have to have a cool lifestyle or live in a certain place or have a shit ton of money or anything. It's just a matter of, I think there comes this time. I think it occurs when you have a big life event like a divorce. I think maybe lose a job. Okay, a big career pivot. When you become an empty nester, maybe you lose a parent, or maybe it's some sort of pivotal birthday or something. But each of us are different, and that's when you kind of go, huh? It's not a midlife crisis. It's not. And I sure as hell I'm not going to call it the midlife awakening or chrysalis. Okay. But
Just
it's just kind of like,
don't lie to us. You're going back and you're, like, TMing it.
oh, exactly. Dang it. No, it's already been done. But I mean, I think that's the thing is you just start realizing, hey, I've had some good times, I've had some bad times, and there's a lot more to do. What am I going to do? What do I think that's the thing. We have this ability to reinvent ourselves or tweak it, so to speak, and every aspect of our lives. Okay. You're not, and we've said this a lot in terms of careers, but it's in everything. You're not done. I think that's
Nope,
the
you're not
point.
done till you're done.
You're not done until you are, a crispy critter or you are 6 feet under. That's it. I mean,
Mhm.
you're not done until it is over.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I know that a lot of my contemporaries are thinking is, you know, what do I want to do? Time is short. There's a lot of world to see. This has gotten me to this point to become the man that I am. But what type of man or woman do I want to be moving forward on that? And I think that's a huge piece. While you still can't mobility, longevity, health, you know, I think these are questions that everybody asks, and there's no roadmap for. And I think my big leave behind for a lot of people is going to be, yeah, and you're not alone in this because we don't talk about these things. And you do see the social media people, and it's all the, you know, look, if you haven't hit it yet, it's a Gary V, love him or hate him, he does a lot of talk on this whole you've got time. Yes, I don't know how much time I've got. I could be hit by a bus tomorrow. I have friends that, get a diagnosis and they have 18 months. I have friends that are crushing it at 80 plus. God willing, I got a long time ahead of me. But it's this idea of, can you sit around and wait, or can you give yourself that permission and freedom to say, okay, I can, I can give it a shot.
Yeah,
Huh? I
to
can give it
do
a shot.
what you want, not what someone else told you you should want, right? What you want. And
Or that you've been kicked in the ass a lot. A lot of us have gotten to that point where, hey, you know what, you've been kicked around a little bit,
yeah,
and just because you've had, you know, I love this. You're not defined by your best day or your worst day. You're just not. It's a timeline that extends for a long period of time, and yet we overemphasize the, oh, I had a
oh
shitty marriage. Oh, I
god.
did this. Oh,
The negative things just stick with us. It's like we can't get them out of our brains, but we forget all the wins, right? We forget the other things that make us who we are. It's true.
and nobody's gonna. You said it earlier. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody
Nobody cares.
cares. They're figuring their own shit out.
And the people who matter, they're gonna be rooting for you. They're gonna want the best for you, period. Full stop. And that should be what you want, not what they want, not what society wants, right? Not what we've been told our whole lives. So I find age to be just totally liberating because and I jokingly refer to these as my no fucks 40s because I give so far fewer fucks than I ever did before because I have the confidence and the belief in myself. I know who I am. And if someone doesn't see that or someone wants to think something differently of me, okay, it's none of my business. You guys do you. That's fine. But I know the way I want to move forward in the world and what matters to me and how I want to show up. And I'm just going to go chase that because, as you pointed out, we never know how much time we have, right? And it could be a day, it could be, 40 years, who knows, maybe longer. But the reality is, like, we all just have to go for what we want and age the way we want. Don't do it the way someone else tells you to. That's been the biggest lesson for me in all of this is talking to people and just watching the people who actually embraced what they wanted. Sometimes it's kind of forced upon them, right? Like some circumstances befall you that you don't necessarily have agency in, but making the most of what you can impact, like that is compelling to me. That's inspiring to me.
Well, you use that word impact, and I think that's a critical word because a lot of things I see in the aging and midlife space is the purpose, the legacy. Okay, cool. Are you going to have a building named after you or on a mountain? No, because the cold, cruel facts are 4 generations. You'll only be remembered 4 generations, max. That's it. And so the point is, be a good person. Leave an impact on the world around you right now, on the people who you love, on the people who you actually do have an influence
Totally
over.
agree.
Okay. And I
That's what
think
really
that
matters.
yeah, that's what really matters. And I think I've kind of redefined, this whole thing of, no one's gonna remember that blog post you wrote. Nobody's gonna remember all this other bullshit. It's gonna be what is my impact right now on the people I love, the people who I have come in contact with, and the experience I have while I'm breathing air and pumping blood right now.
Yep.
That's
And
it.
your local community, right? Like all of that. Totally agree. It's we get caught up in the wrong things and, oftentimes we find out too late that they were the wrong things. And so my hope is that we can wake people up and let them know like this is what actually matters. It's not what some self-proclaimed guru on LinkedIn tells you about owning 7 Lambos by 25. Like that doesn't fucking matter. And what you want does and the people around you who you care about do, right?
I want to revisit one thing about you and your background. We talked about a lot of things as this was designed to do, but we talked about ageism and how with so many generations in the workplace, where people are encountering it earlier and younger. And I know there's some differences, not just ageism, but sexism as well. And what I wanted to do for a second is I'd love you to share kind of your experience in this because, a lot of people would think, oh, she's the cynics on my end of the street might go, oh, she's 42. She's a baby. She's good.
What does she know about
Yeah.
ageism,
What does she know
right? Like,
about this?
yeah, totally.
But you do. And I think that
Yeah.
your example is a great one that speaks to this. So if you'd share that with folks.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was called a dino at age 37 at my tech company by my younger colleague, and he was joking, but he was actually not wrong. Like, compared to the people around me, I was one of the oldest people. The C suite, there were multiple people there who were younger than I was. Like, I saw a dearth of older people at the organization. And then I realized, like, oh my gosh, this wasn't just at this smaller VC backed startup. This was like literally at Bloomberg. Like, when I lived in New York and worked for Bloomberg, I was like, yeah, wait, there were no older people. And then when I worked at Court TV and television news, prior to that, I noticed the intensity of the ageism around me for the on-air talent. And the dudes had silver hair and they were still in the anchor desk. And then the women had to look at least 20 years younger than their age. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, this might not be like a long-term thing for me as a woman. So I recognized it from a pretty early age in my career, but then it was really crystallized when that comment was made. It was like that aha moment. And that's when I started having conversations with people where I was like, hey, you guys like worried about this because like no one is older in our organization and like people don't just like disappear and everyone's working to 80 now and like live into 100. So like how does this math work out? No one's saving enough for retirement. And everyone was worried about it. Everyone was like, oh yeah, I think about aging out. That's what they called it, aging out all the time. And I'm like, but why is no one freaking talking about it? And this was a time when, a lot of conversations were happening around diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. And I was like, dude, this is the one thing that unites all of us. Like literally every single one of us will face ageism. I learned every one of us, meaning also people think you can be too young, which I did not know going into this, right? I didn't really think about it that way. But that's the thing as well. But I was like, everybody who's lucky enough to live to a certain age is going to experience this. Why don't we actually talk about it, bring it out from the under this rug that we all sweep it under so often and like have this discussion because work is one of the most important forces in all of our lives. It's so core to a lot of Americans' sense of self and who we are. And certainly it's how most of us who are not independently wealthy have to get by on this planet, right? You gotta earn a dollar. So that's why I started the show. And I felt like it was high time, overdue, very overdue for conversation and a platform to create awareness. And we've kind of touched on this throughout the course of this conversation, but I didn't want it merely to be a place where people just sit around and bitch about it and complain. I wanted it to be a place where people, yeah, sure, get validated. Yeah, sure, get educated, learn, spread awareness about this force, but also learn how they can handle this inconvenient truth that it exists. Because, like we've said, it's not going away. This is something that is just a core part of humanity. It's a bias that we have and we hold. I don't think that's going to ever be fully eradicated. So, like, how do we coexist with it and how do we thrive in our own ways? So, and through the show, I mean, I've met incredible people. I mean, it's funny, we've had a lot of the same guests. We have Bradley Sherman, Carl Honore, Tamsin Fadal, you name it. We've had a lot of people who've shared our proverbial stages, which has been so awesome. So met incredible humans. But it's also shown me over the course of doing all this, like there are different aspects to ageism. There are different sort of intersectionalities with other sorts of groups and statuses that like do make it worse. So, for example, like ageism is going to hit women earlier, right? Like the EEOC just busted a company last year for using AI to screen out applicants, and they were screening out people who were women at the age of 55 and men who were at the age of 60. So men got an extra 5 years in there where they were deemed, effective hires, right? So that's one example. Then you also have to just look into the beauty industry and, Hollywood and see how that plays out there. And that trickles down to all of us, right? So women have to face this pressure to look younger. We pump like deadly neurotoxins via needles into our face and pay hundreds or thousands of dollars for it. Like we're all chasing youth. We are all chasing the fountain of youth. And it's something that is really complicated because there is a cost and a privilege almost. There's a privilege almost to be able to just like show up and age, more naturally, if you will, quote unquote, because it's kind of a liability, honestly, to some people. And trying to get a job, it's cool if you're Demi Moore and you're saying, hey, I'm 60. She looks like Demi Moore. She's in Hollywood and she has to look a certain way. It's
Back to
and
my
it-
Beckham example. Yeah, it's great.
right?
It's
Exactly.
more just I think, and I'm glad for Demi Moore. I love Pam Anderson. I love that movie. I think she's
Totally.
all. I love Paulina Poroskova, what she's done. But I just think sometimes it is a bit defeating when you're seeing, oh, these are,
Yeah.
hey, look, it's great when you're loaded and you're a star and you can do all this.
They can.
But
They
the
can.
everyday person.
That's the thing, and I hope that that's the next sort of domino that falls. I think that, having that representation, even if the representation looks like Pam Anderson and Demi Moore, that's a start, right? That's a start, and but I do wanna really acknowledge, like, I applaud them for having these conversations. Brooke Shields wrote a book called Brooke Shields Isn't Allowed to Get Old. That's if that doesn't nail it, I don't know what will, and that's true of women too, across all industries, in all of society. It's a very hard thing for us to contend with. I think there's a lot of anxiety that we feel about it. And, who could blame us? We've been fed these messages our whole lives. We've been buying these anti aging beauty products our entire lives, right? It's just a thing. And so I think the fact that these women who have this, stature in society, that have all this wealth, that they're Hollywood stars, the fact that they're talking about it is good because it's setting it out there for us to see and start to absorb and talk about. But there is an inherent privilege that's awarded to them by virtue of who they are and what they do and the money they have, that they can go out there and be like, yeah, I'm 65 and own it. The average woman trying to get a tech job right now is not going to come out there and fly a flag saying I'm 65. Like most women are not going to do that. And the women who I've spoken with in my community who are trying to find corporate jobs in their 60s, oh my gosh, like if I read you the DMs, you would cry. Like it's so hard. So I hope one day we can get to a point where that's possible, where people don't look at it the way that they currently do. But it geez, it's it's a thing. But yeah, women have to face it earlier and it's I think more intense. But ageism is real for everyone. And I've met people, I met a server at a restaurant recently who she asked me what I did for a living. I told her about my podcast, It Gets Late Early. And she said, "Oh my gosh, I am so glad you're talking about this. My dad lost his job when I was in middle school, and I will never forget what it did to our family." This was a white woman, by the way. But she was like, "My dad lost it. It was his whole identity. It was what kept our family afloat. He was a single household earner. It killed his sense of self, his confidence. He walked around in a depressed haze." So that ripple effect went out into her family, into her community. He eventually found another job, but he had to pivot to an entirely new industry and he had to get paid far less. It is real and it impacts all of us. So it's something I think perversely we can all unify behind. But yeah.
Well, it is. I use the word equalizer. When
Mhm.
it happens, it happens.
Yep.
And look, this is little consolation for anyone, for men or women. But I think one of the takeaways from this is yes, it exists and it's awful. But most importantly, at least with the folks that I encounter, we do put so much of our self esteem, our self worth, oftentimes our identity into a career that when you experience ageism like this, the default mechanism is what's wrong with me? Okay. Why me? And it's not you. It is not you. It's not you suck. It's not, your resume's not good enough. Any of these things. It's not, I need more skills. I need more certifications. It's not, should I dye my hair? It's not those things. it's not you. And I think this is just, it's not good, but that's the biggest thing is it happens across the board. And when you, like I said, little consolation, but when you can at least kind of remind yourself of that, tell yourself that over and over. This isn't me. I don't suck. I don't have, I have value. You know, I can produce value, but it's not you. And that breaks my heart when I talk to people and they're just like, what they think there's a silver bullet. Is it my resume? Is it, do I die this? Is it, no, no, it's not. You have to just, I'm not saying lower your standards, but you need to really change, you know, you need to be the best you can be and redefine how you are right now.
Yes, and
As this.
actually, there is a point to be made here. It's not always ageism. Sometimes you're not coming to the job interview in the right way. Sometimes you haven't prepared yourself in the right way. Like, you can't always call it that. Sometimes it absolutely is, so validating that for sure, but just making sure that you do everything in your power to show up in the best possible way, which, by the way, I wanna validate, if you have been trying to get jobs for, like, a year and you can't, oh my god, that's so hard to show up to as your quote best self and to do all the things right when you've been just kicked in the stomach for like a year and you're stressed and your self-confidence is down. Like that is so, so challenging. But yeah, I think it's important that people do not necessarily kind of hide behind that as the reason. Like I think a lot of us want to find like a reason that's outside of our control for why things aren't happening for us. And so sometimes I think that can be an easy thing to say. Again, I'm not saying ageism isn't real. I'm absolutely saying that. I have a whole podcast about it. But also like take control of what you can control and do your best.
Well, and the punchline I'll put on this is, and I loved how you said it. It's not always ageism. Just because you didn't get it, just because they didn't like you, it's not ageism. Sometimes you suck.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sometimes it's you. I'm sorry.
Sometimes it's you, and sometimes, again, my contacts. So some of my virtue signaling contacts in the HR world, cringe at this. Hey, sometimes you're just not their flavor. Sometimes you are the best candidate, but you know what? So and so is going to be a better fit. They like so and so. Sometimes you remind them of their ex-wife or ex-husband. You remind them of that person that was. You can't control that, and unfortunately, well, you don't know. And look, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be logical. That's the real world. And I think, I again, I experienced that time and time again as a headhunter. I mean, I remember phenomenal candidate, CFO candidate went in, crushed the interview, fantastic. Yeah, I did the post interview with the candidate, thought it went well. I talked to the CEO. He's like, not gonna hire him. I'm like, why? Guy laughs like a clown. I can't deal with that. Pain in the ass.
Oh my
Is that
god.
horrible?
Yeah,
Yes, but
yeah.
that's how decisions are
It is
made.
how it works, and it's not right, it's not fair, it just is. It just
It
is.
just is.
So,
So,
yeah, let go of what
yep,
you can, do
yep.
your best, and yeah, it sucks, it's hard out there, but, put yourself in the best possible place to land the job, and, you also gotta think, you'll find what's right for you, right? Like, if you were to get in some place that had these sorts of biases and whatnot against people, like maybe it's not the place for you, right? And again, I realize sometimes that's a relatively privileged thing to say. Sometimes you just need a job. Who cares, right? But it's rough out there. Be kind to your fellow human. Like we're all in this thing together. We're all in this life train together, and we just happen to be coming at it from different perspectives and been born at different times sometimes. So just don't be a jerk. Don't be a jerk.
Okay, so talk about different times and ages. So you've got a time machine, and you're going to go back, and you are going to go meet your younger self for coffee. So you get to go back 20 years.
I love that friend too. Did you
What
see that?
what would you tell your younger self over coffee about being at this stage of life?
About this particular stage of life, I would tell my younger self not to fear it. I would tell my younger self to get excited about it because new paths are gonna be walked, new sorts of aspects of your personality are gonna emerge, new passions are gonna emerge. You're going to be doing what you want to do for you because it's what you want to do, not because your parents told you to, college told you to, society told you to. And you just have to trust your gut and just go for it. So, not to equivocate, not to fear others' perception of you because, again, they're not even gonna be friggin' thinking about you anyway, and what matters is what you think of you. So, that's what I'd say to my younger people-pleasing self. Eldest daughter, eldest millennial. Yeah, yeah. It's such a thing. So I'd be like, "Get out of your own way, man." That's what
Get
I'd
out of
say.
your own way.
What about
Boy,
you? What would you tell younger Bradley?
oh my God. That's a novel in itself. It's horrible.
You wrote a book about
I
millennial.
did. It's so funny. So my middle child, he used to say this is, I'll tell you the real answer in a second, but he's a smart ass. And for a long time, because he used to look like me. Okay, he looked a lot like me, except he had hair when he was younger. He thought it'd be kind of funny. One time, what if we went to like the mall or somewhere and we had someone film it, and I run up, you run up to me, and shake me and go, "I'm from the future. Don't marry her. Don't." I'm like,
That sounds amazing.
that's bad. What for me? Hey, trust your gut. Believe in yourself. That is it. Believe in
Yeah,
yourself. You're gonna get.
all work
You're
out.
gonna. More than anything, is just be you. Just be you. You trust your gut. Be you. And the other thing I would say, and this is a hard lesson. Okay, I'd stick up for myself and tell more people to FO.
I like that.
And I mean that in terms of, there is taking the high road and having integrity always. But there's also being a doormat because you think, oh, well, it's okay.
Oh,
No, no. Sometimes
yes.
it's okay to say, no, that doesn't work for me
Love
at
that.
all.
Such a good lesson.
That that's what I'd tell my younger self. It's okay
Yeah,
to walk away. It's okay to say, nope, not going to do that.
love
That's
it.
power. That's a powerful lesson there.
Power move. It's a power
It's a
move.
power move. So
I take it. May
yeah,
many younger people learn from our younger selves, what we would have told our younger selves.
right, exactly. Maureen Wiley Clough, thank you for being on Advanced Adulting.
Bradley Richardson, thanks for being on It Gets Late Early.